my tradition, at every baptism is when we initiate people into the faith, the whole congregation stands up and they answer this question with a resounding yes. Will you strive for justice and peace among all people and respect the dignity of every human being? Respecting the dignity of every human being means just as we are all diverse as human beings, we are diverse in our different beliefs. And so when we strive for justice and peace among all people, and we respect that dignity, that's very important. I'm the first African-American bishop of the Episcopal Church in the state of Maryland. This is significant in a couple of ways. Religious freedom actually had its roots in this country in the colony of Maryland. Maryland was the first of the 13 colonies to begin to speak of religious freedom in any significant way. This was new among the colonies. And so when Lord Baltimore, who was a Roman Catholic, he established the colony, he also established what's called the Maryland Act of Toleration, which said basically that no person or persons shall in any way be hindered, discountenanced, he said, or bound in the free exercise of their religion. This is the first Roman Catholic colony, and he said that. Now, of course, it had boundaries that we would think of as unthinkable today, meaning you had the free exercise of religion if you were Trinitarian. If you did not believe in the divinity of Jesus, you could be sentenced to death. But then when the Protestants took over in England in the Cromwellian era, then they got rid of the Act of Toleration, and then it went back and forth between Protestants and Catholics. And when the Protestants were in power, they had no rights for Catholics. Maryland didn't fully become free in the exercise of religion until Carroll of Maryland signed the American Declaration of Independence in 1776. But that language in the Declaration of Independence and that First Amendment that talked about the free exercise of religion, that recalled those words that began in Maryland 125 years earlier on the free exercise of religion. Well, as the first African-American bishop, of course, that free exercise of religion and respect of the dignity of African Americans, that was not the case when Maryland was born. The first Episcopal of Maryland, a bishop, owned slaves, as most of the clergy. My ancestors were enslaved persons, and they were enslaved by religious people. These were largely Christians who used the Bible, used the Holy Scriptures to justify not respecting the dignity of every human being. So it became very important to me early on to know that religion could be used as a force for evil and a force for denying people's rights. Bad religion demeans and oppresses. Good religion frees people up. And so I became very clear when I was ordained that I was going to make sure that the religion that I taught and that I exercised would have basic dignity for every human being as a part of its religious tenet. We are building bridges and communities to say, how can we come together and do something for the common good? If we can do that, then maybe it's a sign that we can also work with Muslims, Hindus, Zoroastrians, Jews, all those types of people, and say, what can we do to help protect God's creation?
We are so thankful for our religious and civil liberties specialists who are working with us to make sure that this great American experiment continues, where we live together in our differences. You too can become a constitutional and human rights specialist focusing on religious freedoms. Check out religiousfreedomcenter.org to learn more and to apply for graduate level courses in the First Amendment. Join us again next week for another episode of 5 Minutes of Religious Freedom.